Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and this is actually the second take of trying to do this video because the first one just ended up in me just talking about the Queensland side. But for today's video, we're going to be giving my tips and predictions for the first game of the 2023 State of Origin series. Now, there's obviously going to be a lot of debate over the lineups and all that sort of stuff, and I'm doing this quite early on. There's just less than a week. I'm filming this on a Thursday. Obviously, the game's, 6 days away, so a lot can change, probably a lot of injuries and all that sort of stuff. A lot of mind games. I'm assuming Queensland, they're going to get sick or someone's going to break a leg or something and then, get injected and then go out and play. There's always some sort of controversy going into State of Origin, in particular from the Queensland camp, but with the side that New South Wales have picked, I wouldn't be surprised if there's I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple changes in terms of the starting lineup. They've done it in the past. I'm sure they're going to do it this game, just based off the back line, with the Cameron Murrays and all that sort of stuff. He sort of started and then he's on the bench. Jake Trbojevic used to do it as well. Got Pengo Jr. as well, who I'm not sold as being a starter because of, Junior Paulo on the bench. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with the actual side, but I'm just sort of going to talk as if the 1-17 is the 1-17 that's actually going to play. Now, obviously, the big talking point, it's going to be, the battle of the fullbacks. You've got Rhys Walsh making his debut. Yes, he was in the squad. Yes, he's been in pretty decent form, but James Tedesco, he's been there, he's done it. He's literally been there and done it. He's the captain of the side. Roosters aren't travelling too hot, which is also funny because, Broncos have been travelling pretty good. But Rhys Walsh is definitely a rocks and diamonds player at this point in his career. And I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and, has the best game of his whole career and absolutely kills it or whatever in his debut. But look, Tedesco up against him, it should be a fantastic battle, as should the halves, little battle there. I will say the thing about Queensland is, there's a lot of talk about loyalty at the moment, but they have made a fair few changes. I personally would have kept Callum Ponga there. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it's just weird to me that, all the loyalty and all that sort of stuff. And, Ponga hasn't been great this year, but, just had the best game of his whole season a couple of weeks ago. Definitely looked to be back to his best. The talk about him being injured, definitely not the case because, he's literally just gone back to fullback. I don't think that's a coincidence. Lockie Miller getting dropped to the bench and him straight back into the fullback role the same week he gets dropped from the Queensland side. But you got a guy who you could argue was the best player, one of the main reasons that they actually won last year. It just baffles me. Same can sort of be said for Gagai, but to a lesser extent. I know Gagai's at this point probably past it, but for New South Wales, they've got two guys who don't play centre week in, week out. Obviously, Latrell did play centre week in, week out. Tommy has looked fantastic, and he just doesn't play there because he's too good to not play there. You know what I mean? That's where the New South Wales side have guys who are, they're just fantastic. You can argue that they should be the fullback, and they probably would be the fullback if they were from Queensland, but you need to sort of get them all into the side. They're just that good. So they end up playing in the centres. And it's going to be contentious because Trbojevic has obviously been down on form, and he looks injured, but last week, he looked fairly good. He looked sort of back to his best. And I'll take an 80% Tom Trbojevic over Campbell Graham. I will say Campbell Graham because he seems to be next in line. A lot of controversy as well about him not being in the side, but for me, if Tom Trbojevic is there, if he's available, if he's fit and he's ready to play, we've seen with Jake pulling out, if they're not ready, they will rule themselves out. Latrell literally ruled himself out a couple of seasons. Well, last year was actually, and Burton came in. I started to sort of touch on the halves battle, and I'll finish off what I was saying about the centres. It's more over the shop at this point. But the centres battle in terms of Queensland up against New South Wales, Val Holmes has proven himself at all levels that he's a great centre. But then you've got the hammer, a guy who has only this year really cemented himself as a first grader. I know he's played for Queensland. He was in the worst Queensland team ever that ended up actually winning, so kind of rules that out. But he ended up playing in the centres then. I think he scored a try and he actually looked fairly good. But realistically, you got the hammer who has never really played centre too often. And, he was coming up against Gutherson and all these other guys who hadn't played there as well. Now he's coming up against Latrell Mitchell and Tom Trbojevic. Literally, you can argue the two, some of the best players in the game. You'd probably argue maybe a top 5, top 10 player. Tom Trbojevic at times has literally been the best player in the game. It's going to be a tough ask. Even Val Holmes, I think, should be quite worried. With the side that they've gone with, the Blues have literally went back to their winning ways, essentially, and picked the same side that has won series in the past. And there's always going to be talk about, Jerome Maguire. Look, now he's in the side, I've kind of accepted it, and I've sort of went, all right, well, they've done the job in the past, they've won premierships together. I just hope they don't try and play like Penrith 2.0. It just doesn't work instead of Origin level, but in terms of matchups, you got the halves, you got Cherry Evans, and you got Cameron Munster. Munster always steps up. Whether they get the job done and win, different story, but he always plays at least pretty decent at Origin level. At times, absolutely unstoppable. Cherry Evans is always fairly consistent. I wouldn't say there's a lot of pressure on Nathan Cleary every year in terms of him owning a game and just absolutely destroying Queensland, all this sort of stuff. How many games has he won by himself? It's usually been the team that's carried him. I get it. I'm definitely one of those people who at times I sort of think, Nathan Cleary, a fantastic player, but when it's come to the big stages, even grand finals and stuff, there's not really been a case where it's all right, Nathan Cleary has really stepped up and just absolutely just propped the team on the back of himself and just taken them to a win. It just hasn't happened. I mean, Tedesco is a guy who you can look at and be yeah, he's done that. Even, I don't know, even your James Maloney's and stuff, you could probably argue that he's been able to do it at times. But in terms of Nathan Cleary, he's been there for quite a few seasons now, and you really can't think of a game where he's just absolutely rubber-stamped his name on a game. Whereas, Cameron Munster, you definitely can. There's been plenty of guys. I was talking about Ponga. There's games where you can actually pinpoint moments where you're if they didn't have him, they wouldn't have won. Whereas when New South Wales have won, I can't really sit here and say, if Mitchell Pearce had played, they would have lost that one, or even if Nico Hines was there, they would have lost it, or whoever it is at the time. But in the same boat, I feel like Cherry Evans is sort of similar. I don't think there's ever really been a series or a game where I can sit here and say, yeah, they've won that because of Cherry Evans. It's always been Munster. So I thought it was just ironic that you got the two number 7s. Cherry Evans won one premiership in the very first season. Cleary's, literally done it all in the game, and, he's still so young, still so much potential. And there's zero talk about Cherry Evans and all the talk about Nathan Cleary and Jerome Lamai and, how they can't get it done despite them going back to back in the NRL. It is a weird sort of reality we're living with, but I think it's just because Nico Hines has been so good. But look, I am keen to see how Jerome Lamai goes. If I'm being completely honest with you, he's already come out and he started to rile up the Queensland side, so that part should be interesting. The 4-pack is going to be a big battle. It's the least I can say about that one. Look, Pengai Jr. is the big one for me. I'm starting to wrap my head around him being in the side in terms of they want to go with someone who's just going to break open a game. But for me, they also have gone with someone who can lose a game. Whereas Queensland have gone for that just that solid side. They've got the big boppers. They've got all the fiery guys. But New South Wales have got a lot of guys who we don't really know how they're going to go. Frizzell hasn't played in a couple of years. Hudson Young quite literally hasn't played. Isaiah Yeo, obviously, yeah, he's going to be there. Coruscant, debatable whether he should have been in the side in terms of, how things have been going. And I saw people in the comment section asking me do you think Coruscant going to the Tigers? He's playing in a terrible side. Then obviously he's not going to play good. Damien Cook plays for the Rabbitohs. I'm well, that's the same argument. Shouldn't that be the same argument for him when he looked good? Was it just Penrith just carrying him? You know what I mean? It's just, you can't sort of pick and choose that sort of stuff. That's the whole, I don't want to say the beauty, that's kind of the downfall. Ask Josh Adokar how he got dropped. Same player, just at a different team, and they just dropped him purely because of it, in my opinion. But look, I think this is going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be I don't want to say a very different game to what we've seen in the past, but obviously the game's going to be tense no matter what. It's an Origin game. It's going to be fairly close. I don't see this being a blowout game. I know New South Wales have won in the past, and when they seem to win in the past, they seem to put 50 on them. They just seem to win well. Either Queensland stick in it long enough to annoy New South Wales and then eventually win the game, or New South Wales come out and absolutely hammer them. I'm not sure how it's going to be. I'm pretty sure Queensland have a pretty poor record at the ground, so and obviously it's not played. It's New South Wales home game, but it's not a New South Wales home game. It's played at Adelaide, pretty sure. So look, a bit of talk about it not being sold out. That's a whole nother story, but. In terms of just previous results, New South Wales have a pretty good record there. I can't really recall them losing at Adelaide, at least in recent years. I think it's where it absolutely poured down a couple of years ago. Could be wrong. Oh, and I should just touch on the fact that in terms of Rocks and Diamonds, I talked about Pengai Jr. and Rhys Walsh and that sort of stuff. David Fifita is another one who, at NRL level, can break open a game. You can also sort of not do too much, but I'm actually really excited to see how he goes. Not as a Blues fan, just in terms of a general NRL fan, a general rugby league fan. Can you see how he goes? Because I feel like he's actually developed quite a lot. He's gone from being a guy who's super hyped up, sort of going under the radar, lost his Origin spot, has regained the Origin spot to little to no fanfare. I'm keen to see how he goes. I think he'd be quite good for them. I'm also keen to see how the Blues actually line up, because you can't tell me that's going to be the actual forward pack that starts. It doesn't make sense to me. In terms of the guys that they've gone with and who they've got on the bench, you've got the experienced guys on the bench coming out in game one, an important game. New South Wales, in my opinion, they need to win game one. They have to win game one. They have to win this. You can't be going to Queensland in game two and be trying to equal things up. Like, Queensland can win New South Wales, but New South Wales seem to struggle to win in Queensland. So if Queensland win this one, I think maybe they win the series. But in terms of the actual game itself, I sort of touched on it. I think it's going to be a very exciting game. I think there'll be a lot of points. I don't think this is going to be like a defensive-based game, in my opinion, just based on the sides that have been picked. They've gone for a lot of attacking guys. Ben Hunt's another one at hooker. Talked about Coruscant, Ben Hunt, both very attacking-based hookers. So, yeah, look, I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think New South Wales are actually going to get the job done. And, obviously I'm going to have some bias sitting here as a New South Wales fan. And I definitely want New South Wales to win. But I've not been shy of picking Queensland in the past. It's just that the side that Queensland have picked, the side that New South Wales picked, I don't really like it. But also the side that Queensland have picked, I don't really like it as well, considering other options. And, in previous years, teams that they've had, like Ponga, I would have taken Ponga. Obviously, Papali'i, being experienced, he's not there this year, retired. Gagai got dropped. It's going to be interesting. And, with Trebojevic and Latrell Mitchell back into the side, I think they literally haven't lost a series together. And also, probably a thing that doesn't get talked about and probably is a big factor in this is that New South Wales seem to struggle with the pressure, but at the moment, they didn't win last year. The side's sort of getting talked about as being like a bit of a shitty little team. I don't think there is a lot of pressure on New South Wales, which is where I think they'll thrive. And that's the reason that I think they'll actually get this job done. I can't really sit here and be like, I think the halves are so much better or, the back line's so much better. I do think New South Wales wins the backs. The forwards of Queensland, I think, edge out New South Wales. And then the halves, I think, are fairly... I think I give Queensland like a little bit of an edge, but I think the halves are fairly even. But I think the bench for New South Wales is very, very strong. Queensland's like, it's okay. But in terms of a winner, I'm going with New South Wales. I do think it'll end up being like a 1-12er. Although I've just got done saying that New South Wales, when they win, they seem to win well. And here I am tipping New South Wales. So let's go New South Wales 13+. Depends on if it's a dry track. I think New South Wales come out and smack them. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just sort of throwing things out there. But I'm going to go New South Wales 13+. Let me know in the comment section below, guys. What are your thoughts on both the sides? What are your tips and predictions? In terms of first try scorer, let's go with Josh Addo-Carr. I think him returning to the squad. Latrell Mitchell there. It's funny, I didn't even talk about the Fox, but I think that combo, I think they'll get going again. In terms of man of the match, I'm going to go with James Tedesco. I think it's been a little while since he's had like an out-and-out man of the match performance, whether it's NRL level or like New South Wales level. So I think he'll be back. Wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Latrell Mitchell or Tom Trbojevic. For Queensland, I think if there's a man of the match, I think Cameron Munster's going to get it, or Ben Hunt. I think they're the two important guys. Probably like more so Hunt at the hooker position. I think he can really break open the game. But look, they're my tips and predictions. If you happen to enjoy this video, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel for new rounds here. We are on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Every like seems to help as well. So the more likes, the better, the more growth of the channel. So if you'd like to help me out, definitely go ahead and leave a like. Also, comments really help as well. So, guys, if you can leave comments, that'd be very much appreciated. Also, speaking of appreciating people, I just want to give a special mention to the super chatters and the members of the channel. You're seeing it all on screen at the moment. We've got some very, very familiar faces. They've been here for quite a while. Shout out to you guys. You've been really holding it down on the channel. So, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting me. It really means a lot to me. I had a TikTok that went for like 280,000 views, something along the lines of that. So, if you've come from TikToks or whatever, thank you very much. Speaking of TikToks and my socials, you're seeing them on the screen already. It's Mr. League YT. Give me a follow, give me an ad. And guys, that's where I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for watching. Less than a week from State of Origin, so plenty of videos to be made, mainly on Rugby League Live 4, but we'll see how we go. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See yous.